Updated December 3, 2017 111,215 Former Yemeni President Ali Abdullah Saleh has said he is ready for a new page in ties with the Saudi coalition fighting in Yemen if it stops attacks on his country, in a move that could pave the way to end nearly 3 years of war. The apparent shift in position came as Mr. Saleh's supporters battled Houthi fighters for a fourth day in the capital Sana'a, in fighting that the International Committee of the Red Cross (ICRC) said has killed dozens of people and prompted calls to protect civilians. "I call upon the brothers in neighboring states and the alliance to stop their aggression, lift the siege, open the airports and allow food aid and the saving of the wounded, and we will turn a new page by virtue of our neighborliness," Mr. Saleh said in a televised speech. "We will deal with them in a positive way, and what happened to Yemen is enough. Yemen's war has killed more than 10,000 people, displaced more than 2 million people, caused a cholera outbreak infecting nearly 1 million people and led the country to the brink of famine. The recent fighting was the most serious since the Houthis and Mr. Saleh's General People's Congress (GPC) made common cause against the Saudi coalition. The coalition joined the Yemen war in 2015 to try to restore the internationally recognized government of President Abdrabbu Mansur Hadi to power. The clashes between Mr. Saleh's supporters and the Houthis underscore the complex situation in Yemen, one of the poorest countries in the Middle East, where a proxy war between the Iran-aligned Houthis and the Saudi-backed Mr. Hadi has caused one of the worst humanitarian catastrophes in recent times. Mr. Saleh, who was forced to step down by a 2011 mass uprising against his 33 years in office, said Yemen's parliament, which is dominated by the GPC, was the only legitimate power in the country and was ready for talks with the coalition. The Saudi coalition welcomed Mr. Saleh's change of stance. In a statement carried by the Saudi-owned Al Hadith channel, the coalition said it was confident of the will of the leaders and sons of Mr. Saleh's GPC party to return to the Arab fold. Mr. Hadi also said he was ready to work with Mr. Saleh against the Houthis. The meeting calls for turning a new page with all the political sides, and to form a broad national coalition that will lay the foundations for a new era and unify everyone against the coup militia, the statement said. The coalition accuses non-Arab Iran of trying to expand its influence into Arab countries, including Yemen, which shares a long border with Saudi Arabia, by aligning themselves with the Houthis and Mr. Saleh. The Houthis accused Mr. Saleh of betrayal, and vowed to keep up the fight against the Saudi coalition. It is not strange or surprising that Saleh turns his back on a partnership he never believed in, the group's political bureau said in a statement. The priority has been and still is to confront the forces of aggression. The Houthi group leader, Abdelmalek al-Houthi, had earlier appealed to Mr. Saleh to avoid any escalation, saying that the crisis would only serve Yemen's enemies. Residents of Sana'a described heavy fighting in Hadda, a southern residential district where many of Mr. Saleh's relatives live, early on Saturday, with sounds of explosions and gunfire heard while the streets were deserted. The fighting eased in the afternoon as Saleh supporters gained the upper hand. There was no immediate word on casualties, but ICRC Regional Director Robert Mardini, writing on his Twitter account, said dozens had been killed and hundreds were wounded in the fighting, which began on Wednesday after a dispute erupted over a mosque in the capital. Both sides have reported that each side has lost 8 fighters. The United Nations envoy to Yemen, Ismail Old-Sheikh Ahmed, and the ICRC urged the parties to avoid targeting civilians. Mr. Saleh's GPC party accused the Houthis of failing to honor a truce and said in a statement on its website that the Houthis bear responsibility for dragging the country into a civil war. It also called on supporters, including tribal fighters, to defend themselves, their country, the revolution and the republic. The GPC appealed to the army and security forces to remain neutral in the conflict. Reuters topics unrest conflict Handwa, Yemen, Saudi Arabia first posted December 3, 2017 110,154.